Powa and the People, Democracy of the Airways on Channel 5. Sponsored by Benny's, serving Belize for over 74 years. The Ministry of Immigration, managing migration for the security and socio-economic benefit of Belize.
Good evening, Belize. Welcome to Powa and the People. Nomination Day 2025 is in the books. And what a day it was. The PUP showed up in full force. Tracy Panton's faction of the UDP arrived in the independent slot. In a shocking twist, 3 UDP candidates from the other faction did not show up, and this led to 2 PUP contestants being in an uncontested win. What does this all mean for the election? Let's get into it. Of course, we have joining me is Demi Williams. Good night, Demi.
Good night.
She is our social media commentator and contributor for our Powa and the People. And of course, Harold Young is not joining us tonight, but we're going to be having somebody stepping in for him later on in the show. But Demi, let's get into it.
Yes.
Nomination Day 2025. Were you locked in?
I had to be locked in. I mean, I did not expect what unfolded, for sure, but I was very curious to see who all was going to be nominated and where and so forth, right? But I got more than I bargained for with this. And there's a lot to unpack about what happened yesterday.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned on my social media commentary, there's 3 different types of narratives I'm seeing playing out.
Yeah.
The first one being party loyalists. They're celebrating that their party won 2 seats uncontested. I'm seeing disgruntled, loyal UDPs. I'm also seeing a lot of the apathetic voters. They're coming out in full force, but I'm also seeing people who genuinely feel like our democracy imploded upon itself yesterday.
Well, Demi, I feel like we have to give our viewers a small nomination day recap. If you did not tune in, which I'm sure you were, let's get into the nomination day 2025 recap. All right, as we are going to get that clip ready, of course, we want to remind our viewers to please tune in to our show tonight using the hashtag POWA2025 on our social media. We want to hear from you. And of course, if you have any commentaries or question, you can call us directly at 280-0016. If you have any questions for us, if you have any questions for our guest, we want to hear from you. But Demi, as you said, the PUP's crowd turnout.
Yes, they had the numbers. Well, we kind of expected that to happen. As the incumbent, there needs to be a show of force.
Okay.
You know, nomination day is like you're going to war, so you have to bring out all the artillery and really show what you got.
Yeah.
So no surprise there. I think what a lot of us focused in on were the different factions of the UDP and the shows of support on either faction. And that's where it got a little bit interesting, because I think that definitely there was more showing on one side than the other in terms of the UDP, no?
Yeah, I was very curious to see that Miss Panton's faction came in the
full force
independent slot.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It makes sense, but at the same time, that's not the conversation that we've been telling the voters.
Yeah.
You know, the narrative has been it's one united UDP regardless. So I think that this kind of messes with the messaging, but it could possibly pave the way for something greater further down the road. Like, it could really show us what a third party could look like, or independent party could look like.
Interesting, but then that would mean that one faction is alluding to them separating from the UDP. And from what we understand, none of them are quote unquote separating. They're all UDP. They are one.
We have that understanding from one side. The other side does not recognize. And that has always been Honorable Moses Shine's position. So it's very interesting narratives playing out here. And I'm hearing a lot of people say, well, the voters won't be confused. The voters won't be confused. I would say that we have some people lost in the sauce for sure with this conversation, no?
I agree. And of course, as I mentioned, we've just witnessed one of the most chaotic nomination days in history. Yeah. I have never seen this in my entire young life. I've been voting for most of these elections since I was 18 years old, and I have never seen anything like this.
However long ago that was.
We're not going to get into that. The ruling party definitely flexed its strength. They came out in full force. The opposition dealt, of course, with some disorganization and major losses. What is really going on here?
So, I think we need, and some might say they don't owe us an explanation, but I believe when you submit your name to run for public office, you do hold, you are to be held accountable, and you owe the people an explanation. And that is the answer to that question, what happened? Because you have Dean Samuels, for instance, who is no stranger to politics. He has done conventions before. He has expressed interest in running for the United Democratic Party. You have Mr. Melvin, who is, you know, again, no stranger. He's a part of the UDP executive for the East and a returning candidate for Fort George. So these are two men who you would have never believed would have just not showed up to be nominated.
I had mentioned earlier in our introduction that although we were saying that it was 4 UDP candidates, I had to make that correction to say it was 3 that didn't show up. The exception of Mr. Rivers, who did not gather enough nominations.
He was there. No, that's another interesting situation. He was there. However, he only had, I think they said he had 5 at the time, and when he went off to find the 6th, he came back and the 5 had dispersed themselves. That's another interesting. That just doesn't happen.
It does not happen, but it also makes you wonder what type of conversations are happening when these nominees are not in the room.
And whose nominees are the ones who were the no-shows? Because as far as we can see, on Ms. Tracy's faction, everyone was accounted for.
Everyone was accounted for.
So are we looking at a possible fracture within that faction? So how many times can one piece break before it's not a piece anymore?
Yeah.
I'm just asking because voters are questioning this. What exactly is happening behind the scenes in Mr. Barrow's camp?
Yeah, I am also I'm questioning Mr. Disha Williams, who was running against Honorable Osman Martinez in Toledo, and he also did not show up.
And to know,
and I'm very, very concerned about that.
They all showed up when they were unveiling
the candidacy, yes.
Right, that was just this past Saturday. Everyone was there. So what happened between Saturday and Monday?
That is the question. That is the $1 million question. Now, there was an interview with Shine. We run it on our newscast earlier this evening, where he's stating rumors of buying out his candidates. Now, he says that there is no proof that this happened, particularly in the southern districts, but I have no idea where that rumor even began or how people came to that
and
conclusion.
Even unpacking that rumor, because I heard it as well when other journalists were commenting on it. They were saying that, you know, maybe they were paid to stay home, but the question I have to that would, who would have paid them for them to stay home? Are you accusing the incumbent of this? Because from what we have heard, the running narrative is from Ms. Tracy's side is that we're all one UDP. Oh, the UDP has a candidate in Toledo East. UDP has a candidate in Dangriga. She didn't put anyone there.
And this is why she put 16.
Correct.
Yes.
So by process of elimination, I would say it wouldn't come from that side. Are you accusing the government of doing it? But then we also know that resources were strapped on Shine's side of the river. That there was a call for more resources. They weren't getting it, especially leading up to nomination. And I know that he mentioned that he was going to do the disbursements once nomination day had passed, when he has solidified his list. But it calls to take a closer look at what might be happening in that camp for sure.
Well, even though 4 of the UDP candidates, basically are not a part of this general elections 2025,
which has never happened before.
Which has never happened before. You still have 2 contested constituencies with the PUP in Stan Creek and in Toledo by independent candidates.
Yes.
I am very, very excited. Now, I am excited for 2 reasons. 1, this has never happened before, but 2, we also have heard Shine Barrow say that we are going to support these independent candidates, because he already gave his support to Elvia Vega Samos in Corazal, and now he is asking his supporters to back the 2 independent candidates in the South.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely an interesting time in our political paradigm, because we're mostly a two-party system for what it is. Is this opening the door for more third-party support? And when you have a mass party backing independents, what does that say about their internal fixtures? I keep going back to that because I know something's wrong. Something's wrong there.
Something is definitely wrong, Demi. But I want to throw the question out to our viewers right now that are listening and watching us on the various social media platforms and live on Channel 5. Do you think that this election is already decided? Call us, show us your contributions using hashtag Powa 2025 on our social media platforms. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, some of these questions we are going to be tossing to the very Miss Tracy Panton. She is going to be our guest this evening. Don't go away. We will be right back.
February is all about Honda. Get special pricing and discounts on all Honda products. Enjoy up to 25% off select Honda products and 20% off Honda parts. Don't forget your B-Bucks whenever you make your purchase. There will also be a bike rally throughout the streets of Belize City, Blue Creek, and Spanish Lookout on February 8th, 15th, and 22nd respectively. All participants will get free oil change. Check out our Facebook page for more details. Love your Honda. It's all about deals and discounts on Honda products throughout the month of February. Only at Benquip Equipment Parts Service.
Belize introduced its new electronic passport in 2022 through the launch of the Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS. The e-passport includes an electronic chip that safeguards the holder's personal information and photograph. It also features a verification mechanism compatible with biometric systems such as smart gates at international borders. The passport's design reflects national pride, showcasing Belizean landmarks and symbols. It incorporates 26 modern security elements to prevent fraud and corruption. The introduction of the e-passport aims to enhance security, improve processing efficiency, and reduce application backlogs, benefiting Belizeans both domestically and abroad. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
Design Depot, your all-in-one destination for transforming your living spaces. Explore the world of GE with our selection of cutting-edge appliances for functional, convenient, and modern living. Find solutions for every paint project, from home to industrial, with our extensive selection of Sherwin-Williams paints and coatings. Safeguard your home with the durability of our weather-resistant windows and doors. Elevate your kitchen and bath with the timeless elegance of Kohler sinks and faucets. Transform your space with our constantly refreshed tile inventory, always embracing the latest tile trends. Design Depot, all in one place.
Welcome back, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been having a conversation about Nomination Day 2025, and we want to hear from the people. What did they think about Nomination Day? Here's what they had to say. All right, and as...
Got it.
Fully, you see a wipeout?
Yeah, I can see the one wipe out, because the blue have it, because the red right now is confused right now.
Why would you vote for the PUP?
Well, they pave the road right now. They do everything what they shall do in politics.
Where you live, what have they done for you?
What they done for me, they help people around me.
How? Explain.
I fixing the road, get them house. They look out for the poor people, man.
Tell me, what is your biggest wish for Belize?
That's a good one. For things would get better, you know, for the country. I think that is my biggest wish, you know. A lot of people out there need jobs and things, so I wish that they could help that people with the out there right now, we need job, you know. Occupy up their minds and things.
What have they done in your area for you?
For me, well, I got me a nice big house, nice big 3-bedroom house in 8 Mile area. For my and when my kids growing up, he was the one that sent them through high school. So I have nothing to complain about.
And what do you want to happen next? What's your priority now, if the PUP is returned?
I just want more, you know, betterment for the country. Betterment in every way. Every way.
I don't know, because I don't get into those things. I don't vote for no one.
You haven't voted?
No.
You never voted?
I voted, but this time I don't think things is not going the way they're supposed to be going. I don't know.
Where in Belize you come from?
I live in Queen Square.
Oh, you're a Queen Square woman.
Yeah, I'm Queen Square,
Right.
yeah.
So, would you say then that the government has delivered in the last 5 years?
You know, I don't know, because sometimes I'm not here. I just came from New York. You know, so I don't vote that much as supposed to, so I don't know.
But you're following things at home though?
A little.
Yeah.
A little.
Now you come back from New York, what do you think about the country?
I think it developed a lot since then, but things is so hard. And I just came from the supermarket. 1 pound of sweet pepper is like $3, $4. That's not good. It's not good. It's not good. You know, the economic is just going down. It's just going down. I don't know what they're going to do. I think the Senate's supposed to do better at what he's doing. You know, everything is down. You know, everything is up right now. It's supposed to be down, man. It's hard. You know, it's so hard. People are begging, and it's not.
And what their issues are, what they're thinking about for this general elections. I would like to introduce to our viewers our second contributor for tonight's episode of Powa and the People. No stranger to us here on Channel 5, public figure, attorney at law, Mr. Kevin Arthurs. Good night, Kevin.
Good night. I'm wondering who you're describing.
You?
Yeah, that's a heavy introduction.
Kevin, we have been dissecting Nomination Day yesterday. Were you locked in?
Absolutely locked in. This is the biggest soap opera in the past 7 years.
That's the best way to describe
Yeah,
it.
that's what
it's
it
the
is.
biggest soap opera.
It's the biggest drama. I spent some time this evening waiting for the release from the Election and Boundaries Department, and I was, as we were speaking about, I was severely disappointed. And I said, you know, tonight I would come and I would you know, kind of do a half scolding, but I realized that the time is a bit short. We got some numbers, but the numbers that we got were absolutely just
wild.
No, good enough for a standard 6 class.
Okay.
And I think that's not where the voting public is. We deserve a little bit better. They didn't even aggregate it. Put it in terms of how many women did we have.
You are absolutely right.
You know, I mean, what the increase was, you know, little small things that, with the ages, you know what I have to go through to do average ages in terms of a contribution that I hope to make tonight, of some of our politicians. I mean, these are trackers. If you want to have a mature or a more mature electorate, these are some of the things that you invite them to.
Absolutely.
I made the call, Channel 5 invited me to open your eyes, and I sat there with a PUP representative and a UDP representative, and we were talking about just how to get young people engaged. And one of my complaints was that the University of UB, and the other tertiary level institutions should jump in. These are opportunities to make comments.
They
to
are.
Delve into the numbers.
UB is actually having
They have a publication?
They are having a panel discussion on March 4th.
I'm talking about digging into these numbers. Like, for example, right? I was looking at the numbers. One of the numbers that came, one of the dry numbers. When I say dry, like when, you know, it's Christmas time and you don't have any lotion and your ankles are ashy, that kind of dry numbers we got today. But the total number of registered voters in this election cycle is 204,378. That represents a 10% increase from the last number, which was somewhere about 196,000. And I was looking through the numbers again, and this represents, the 196,000 actually represented a decrease from the year before. Sorry, I'm getting this wrong. So in 2015, there were 196,000 voters. Because there was re-registration in 2018, that number actually went down in 2020.
Interesting.
To 182,000 thereabouts.
People move. People move. People go
the
away.
People ghosted, did at Dean Samuels. And so
wow.
we were able to clean off a couple of the list there. And then in 2025, now we have 204,000 voters. And I think that it's an interesting trend to look at the correlation between the number of registered voters, voter turnout, and the general population
right.
on a whole. Another interesting thing for me, just looking at the dry numbers again, was trying to look, to my mind, somewhat there's an increase in the number of candidates. When I did the numbers, it's not very far off. The numbers of total candidates in 2020 was 88 that I counted, and I count independents and
two mass parties.
Yeah.
And how much do we have now?
We have, what did they say, 90?
90. I think I saw 90.
90. So it's only a marginal increase.
However, you can't count the fruits like that at all, because I'm pretty sure if you counted in 2020, you would have 31 PUPs and 31 UDPs.
Correct.
However, what was very different in that count was that there were 41 UDPs on that list.
So that's part of what makes it interesting, because in 2020 there were only 19 independent candidates. Now, if you add, and I don't buy this, you know, one of the things that disappointed me was I've been very disappointed in our institutions, the Exchange and Boundaries Department. Unfortunately, somewhere I work, the courts, in terms of timeliness of resolving some of these issues, I do not believe the court should be in the horse gallop of politics. It really should, it's a referee. But in terms of making determinations, Election Boundaries to me has waited till the last minute to do what, to my mind, is probably the most confusing decision that they could ever make.
Option one, they said.
Well, I just don't know how you can reconcile it. To me, this required, because by you saying that, you are actually endorsing a particular party's position. So you have actually endorsed Tracy Panton's position.
But then you also label them as independents, and then you group them together as all UDPs.
I'm not asking how to resolve it. I'm saying make a conclusive decision that will not create voter confusion.
But then now this comes to my second question, because you're talking about voter confusion. The way that our entire elections is set up, we call it a fair and free election process, but now here we are with two PUP uncontested candidates who have won already without their voters contributing to it. Isn't that taking away from the right to vote, the right to democracy that the people have?
No, I mean a right to vote is like a right to get married. If you have nobody to get married to, you have to stay single. It's as simple as that.
That's not what I've been hearing, though, Kevin.
But
I've been speaking to persons who are registered in Pickstock and Fort George, and they feel like their right to vote was robbed, that they don't have a voice on election day.
No, so you can't force somebody to get into the arena. The circumstances that happened in Belize yesterday, which were unprecedented, there's a provision for it. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I said, I was looking through the legislation, actually. Let me start from there. And the legislation actually does not contemplate a situation where you have no candidate at all.
Okay, we are going to get back. No, we're going to get back to that because unfortunately we are strapped for time. But you know who you can ask these questions to? Our guest that is coming in after this commercial break. Like I said, we have Miss Tracy Panton joining us this evening. She is going to be our guest. After this commercial break, we will be right back.
Introduced its new electronic passport in 2022 through the launch of the Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS. The e-passport includes an electronic chip that safeguards the holder's personal information and photograph. It also features a verification mechanism compatible with biometric systems such as smart gates at international borders. The passport's design reflects national pride, showcasing Belizean landmarks and symbols. It incorporates 26 modern security elements to prevent fraud and corruption. The introduction of the e-passport aims to enhance security, improve processing efficiency, and reduce application backlogs, benefiting Belizeans both domestically and abroad. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
This is my first time here.
Hopefully it's my last.
My dear friends, here we are, all in our true colors. Your transfer papers, your key to the Mvule Kingdom.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I know.
Here are your clippers. Clippers.
Who's in? We are prefects. We run this place. So let's act like it.
Solomon, the head prefect, quick. Is my collar straight?
You'll be out of Mvule High before you can pronounce the word scholarship.
We have a mystery to solve. The only way we can make a difference is if we stick together. When I'm head prefect, each and every student will have a voice.
You need to show that new squeak in Mvule.
I hate this school!
Freedom to grow.
The CB100 is efficient, durable, and has enhanced smart power. Being a Honda, of course, it's reliable and fuel efficient. Get around town with no worries because you get up to 100 miles to the gallon. And it's priced at an unbeatable $2,700. Honda CB100, available at Banquet. Equipment, parts, service.
And welcome back. Joining us now is UDP's Tracy Panton. Good night and thank you so much for joining us.
Good night. It's a pleasure to be here. I haven't seen my friend in colleague for some time, so it's good to be in your presence, Kevin, and to meet you, Demi, and of course, to be part of this conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us, Tracy. Yesterday, we saw something unheard of. First of all, congratulations to you and your slates for your nominations.
Thank you.
But we saw 4 UDP candidates that failed to show up, effectively handing 2 PUPs their seats without a single vote. What does this tell us about the party's current state? What is going on?
Regrettably, I can't speak of the decision made by 4 UDP candidates not to be nominated yesterday. I think they're the best persons to tap into, to understand what were the conditions that led to that. I do think it's a travesty and a black eye to our democracy. I think my grandmother didn't have the right to vote. And so the right to vote, I think, is a privilege. It is a fundamental right that is afforded to us as Belizeans, as citizens of this country. And you should have a choice. In my opinion, there should be a choice who you want your representative to be. I certainly don't think it bodes well for us. When I say us, I mean us as a country, to have seats by default. You know, the people's, I'd like to say, and I maintain that the people have the power, and the voices of the people are important at all levels of our society, and particularly important when it comes to the governance of Belize.
Can I ask, you had 16 representatives,
15.
Right? 15, apologies. 15
yes.
and yourself.
15
in total.
Total.
I wonder why there were not slates for 31. Was it that you rightfully said you thought that these people were the best candidates? What happened there?
I think I've spoken to that issue a few times on this television station. The constitution of the party lays out how persons are elected or endorsed to become standard bearers for the party. And in the case of a few of my colleagues, I like to use the example of Dr. Omar Figueroa, for example, in Cayo North. He followed the constitutional process of the party. So even though he is not technically on my slate, he is the UDP standard bearer for Cayo North by way of the constitution of the party. So it would have been a highly improper of me or anyone in our team to try and field another candidate, another standard bearer in Cayo North, outside of what the constitution provides for.
Sorry, did you, not to interrupt you, but did you hear the Honorable Moses Shinebaro tonight on the news when he said, the media, you guys have been, you're coming at me now, but Ms. Panton has said that these are our 31, and so she has to take responsibility for some of this. That's what I think I heard him say tonight. Did you hear it?
I haven't listened.
But if he said something like that, what would you respond to?
I haven't listened to him recently.
You're not?
No. I am more focused on listening to the concerns of the Belizean people.
Ms. Tracy, the check it change, Kevin.
If you ask me,
rough things for me, you know, because I heard the leader opposition come out of his nomination day and say, I don't know a candidate, I'm not the party leader, and I was like, you can't be.
He did say that.
You can't. That's not an acceptable answer to intelligent people, you know. Yeah. But you were saying, sorry.
You asked me a question, and I wish you would allow me to answer it, Kevin.
Yes.
You asked me if I heard an interview that the former party leader of the United Democratic Party gave earlier today. I did not. We have to take responsibility if the responsibility lies with you. And in this case, those candidates that were not nominated were candidates that were a part of his slate. And I think it speaks definitively of his lack of leadership in this respect. Yeah. You know, we can spend all half an hour, 30 minutes that we have speaking about where to point fingers. I think it's more important to speak of the concerns that I have heard from the Belizean people on the campaign trail, and why it is important for us to have an alternative. This election is unprecedented. We are going to have 90 persons who were duly nominated yesterday, who are running for political office, giving the people of Belize a choice as to who they want to serve as their voice. Because where 5 years ago, it was about the red and the blue, I think there is a there's a changing trend.
The tide is changing.
The tide is changing, and that gap of independent voter is widening. And what I hear, especially from the young people, it's we are going to vote for the person that we think can best represent us, that is going to be engaged with us, is going to listen to us. And so I think it's becoming more about the candidate, and not necessarily the political entities that we are a part of.
I actually like that you mentioned young voters, because there's been a lot of buzz in the youth arms around the country, especially given what happened yesterday with the PUP winning 2 seats automatically because of no-shows. So just to shed some light, because there's a lot of apathy around young voters. A lot of them are saying that they're not going to go to the polls because what's the sense? Do we think that, or do you think that what happened yesterday might make it worse, where we have more voters who have lost confidence in the UDP or in the democratic process because of what happened? And what would be your response to them?
All I can tell you, this weekend I was of course on the campaign trail. I'm spending most of my time on the campaign trail, and I had an opportunity to speak to several young voters and several young male voters, which is a distinction. Young women have more empathy. I find they gravitate to me a lot because of my relationship with my 2 daughters, who then, I have a family of daughters, if you will. But I think this kind of event does the opposite. And it's really about voter engagement, right? It's about listening and sharing of ideas. This is why it's important. These incidents are why it's important for young people to step up to the plate, to get involved in the political discourse, because it's not the politician working for the voter. It's not the voter working for the politician, sorry. It's the politician working for the voter. And we've lost that. As politicians, many of us feel that what we say is gospel. We spend a few dollars on election day, and that should be the determining factor. And I say to our young voters, no, this is your country, this is our future. You have a voice, and you have to speak to your representatives. You create the venue if you must, but you cannot sit on the sidelines and not speak up.
Now that we have established that you have the nominees for the United Democratic Party, notwithstanding the 4 no-shows, or the 3 no-shows and 1 that didn't gather enough nominees, how confident are you going into the general elections?
I believe we have a path to 16 seats. I've said that before. I maintain that. I believe we have not all coming from my slate, but certainly with the 2 slates combined, I believe we have a path to 16. And if not 16 seats, certainly we're going to have more robust and functional democracy. We need to be able to hold this government administration to account. There are so many things that have happened that have been left unsaid. I certainly had a first-hand knowledge of that when I served as the chair of the Joint Public Accounts Committee, and I can tell you our financial system is broken, and we need to fix it. And I'm not holding one political entity responsible, but the truth is it's broken. and we need to make sure that we put make that a priority. It's the public's purse. It's monies that we garner from taxpayers, and we should, and the government should be held to account.
You said something that is triggering me, because I think the viewers don't want to hear what they've already heard on the news. They have the benefit of having someone who could possibly be Prime Minister of this country one day. And so I'm sure they want real and direct conversations. And so one of the things that was interesting in what you said, because I've heard you repeat it, that there's a path to 16, and you said that there is, you're not say entirely from your slate. So that means you assume that certain members of the UDP conglomerate will not be successful. Where are your weakest parts of your slate?
I'm not in the minds of all the voters, Kevin. And so I can't say that in a particular constituency, a particular member of the United Democratic Party cannot win. I am not going to do that. I think that's unfair. I think the voters have a choice. And when the voters have spoken, we are going to respect whatever decision the voters have taken. I don't think any political entity, as we are now, not the United Democratic Party, not the People's United Party, will have 31 seats winning in these general elections.
Impossible.
It's not going to happen.
Right. But
it's not going to happen. And so for me to say, to handpick everybody adds value, in my opinion, to the whole. I'm not one to say that we're only going to support 16, because we have UDP supporters living in 31 constituencies throughout this country who want to vote for a candidate that represents their political ideology and their political party of choice.
Absolutely. So I hear you when you said that you can see a path to 16. My concern, and the concern of other voters, that 16 might be mixed up between candidates that are on your faction and candidates that are on Shine's faction. How unified could that 16 be?
You know, I think we're going to be perfectly unified after the general elections. We understand what the job is, what the assignment is. We're here to be the voices of the people in the National Assembly of Belize. We have work to do within the United Democratic Party, and we make no, we don't try to hide that. In my view, the path to rebuilding the party has now begun. And some have said, oh, you should wait, you should have waited for after the elections to start rebuilding. I don't agree with that, personally. You don't allow the house to burn down before trying to out the fire. And I believe that when this election is all over and the dust is settled, we will be able to put the pieces together as best as we can and move the party forward. We are going to be given a mandate by the people, either as the government or members of the opposition. And that comes with a certain level of responsibility as members of the National Assembly.
Can I ask this question too? It's again bothering me, and thank you for entertaining my questions.
For sure, Kevin.
You know, there's certain statements that I've heard that bother me. John Saldiva is in your camp, and strategically you can't divorce yourself from him. He's joined to the hit.
I've never tried to divorce myself.
But one of the
from
challenges in terms of what made him a combustible candidate, negatively so, was issue of campaign financing. And that became a huge thing. Nothing was done from either side to resolve the issue of campaign financing at all. And then thereafter, we had one of the greatest financiers to Belize's political system, Michael Ashcroft, saying, I ain't giving nobody no money, man, because UDP is going to lose. Then another statement was made. You were presenting your candidates. And there was an exchange. I don't know what the statement was, but it was about the amount of money that Mr. Shine has. And I believe it was my classmate, Patrick Faber, who said, we got more money than he. So my question is, where is the money coming from for your faction to be able to finance your campaign?
Where the money comes from, for all political entities, from members of the business community who support a particular ideology or who believe in democracy. I can tell you that I heard Mr. Ashcroft in one of your shows, morning shows, where he said that he believes in democracy and that it has been customary for him to support the opposition because he wants a healthy democracy. And yet he says, I'm not supporting any because the UDP is weak. Those things don't make sense to me. It's his money, and he and all members of the business community put their money where they deem best. There has to be checks and balances in our political system, in governance, to ensure that we can mitigate things like corruption and that sort of thing. And there are members of the business community who believe that a healthy democracy is important, that our democracy currently is in peril, it's fragile, and we cannot allow for it to fail. And so they are prepared to support candidates like me and those who are part of my fraction, of the fraction of, part of my slate, to run for elected office. Campaign finance is a big issue. It needs to be addressed, and you're right, Kevin, both political entities have stayed away from it. But I think the time has come, because the next general elections, the profile of the voter is going to be changed significantly. And that profile of the voter will be the younger bloc who have access to the internet, who sees what's going on in terms of the global affairs, who have access to tertiary education, who are the thinkers and the doers.
I think we're already seeing a lot of that.
And we see a lot of that. I can tell you, I have some of my most enlightening conversations I've had with young people, and I embrace them and I listen to them, because it is important for me to be sure that I am representing the concerns of those people I go to and ask to support me in an election.
Can I ask you an honest question in terms of, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Not many people get this opportunity.
I understand, that's why we all want it.
I feel like we're just jumping in where we can.
Do you think Patrick Faber was wrong in his bid for leadership of the UDP?
Why would he have been wrong? I don't think any person who believes they bring something to the table, who has Patrick in case. Let me say, you asked me a question.
Let her finish. Go ahead, Ms. Panton.
Patrick has been a member of the United Democratic Party from he was 14 years old.
Before the campaign.
He worked for the party. He served in every capacity in the party, with the exception of party leader, and he saw an opportunity. And he offered himself, and it was for the delegates, the highest decision makers of this party, to say yay or nay. And I don't think anybody should be afraid to offer themselves for service or for leadership if they believe they bring those qualities to the table.
Why I asked that question is because I saw him take a public lashing for something private, which I know is wrong, and which I know he has some regret for. Not the lashing was wrong. The fact of what he did was wrong. But the steps that he did to reform himself, and he stepped down to deal with those things, and while he was stepping down, he was hammered by everyone.
He stepped down. Patrick recognized that his personal issue had to be addressed, and he was not going to hang that around the neck of the party. And so he stepped down, stepped back, to take care of his personal issues. I think that's applaudable.
I was just about to say, I think that's commendable, because there are those who can't step down.
Yeah.
But
let me toss a hypothetical, because we are strapped for time, and I know we only have a moment with you here. When the dust settles, general election 2025 is complete, right? Let's say you are all still in the opposition, just for hypothetical states. You have won your constituency. maybe it's a divided slate, some from your faction and some from Shine's faction have won parts of the opposition as well. But also Shine has won his constituency. What steps are you all willing to take to stay unified as the opposition?
Let me say that I took a public beating from people within the United Democratic Party because I held the door open for mediation for as long as I did. The day before my court case for contempt of court, which was all really a waste of the court's time. However, on the 13th, I said to the former party leader, let's sit down and work this out. And there were members of the United Democratic Party who said, you've gone too far. But it's not about Tracy's ego. It is about doing what's right for an institution that's 52 years old, that has benefited from the blood, sweat, and tears of supporters over the years. And our supporters want to see a unified United Democratic Party. And we not only did we hold the door open for Shine, we held the door open for all our colleagues to say, we're here. You know, I called them, I checked on them, I made sure they know that the door was open, we could have a dialogue. They opted. Those who did not respond to that call after the convention we had on 20th, we respected that decision. When this election is over, we will have to have a leadership convention within the United Democratic Party. One is due in 2025, and so I believe that will have to occur very early so that those matters can be settled, and that we must listen to and respect the voices of our delegates. They cannot be dismissed. They should not be ignored. What has happened after the 20th of October, I think, is extremely unfortunate because the delegates of the United Democratic Party spoke, and they spoke clearly and loudly and resoundingly. It was undeniable. And so we move forward. We move forward.
So you can.
I'm triggering you a lot tonight, Kev. No, I don't want to trigger you.
Listen, one thing I've learned and appreciated about politicians, heavy is the head. So I give you guys maximum respect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I also don't take BS from you guys either, because I know that there's a script that you prepare certain things. And so for me, it's getting to the real person. I mean, I would love to have had a debate, to see my politicians debate, like some of the more mature democracies. But this is what we have.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there eventually. But one of the things for me is just, I sat there and I thought, I heard the leader of the UDP say that the time for talking is over because nominations are in. So I went and I did some legal research, and I found that in fact that is not necessarily true. There is still time. 7 days, hear me, 7 days after nomination day, a candidate may withdraw his candidacy, so long as there's one other person leaving there. So in all the constituencies where there's two, in the next 6 days, yourself and Mr. Barrow can sit down somewhere and can decide, you know what, this crazy thing about 15 people on the ballot and 9 people running the port is nonsense. We want to give the people a portion. Let's resolve it. Let's withdraw the ones that are least viable and keep the ones that are best viable. Is that not possible anyway?
You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot force the horse to drink. And I don't know what you expect of certainly me, that have kept the door wide open and have been told at every juncture that there was no interest, no time to sit down and talk. I don't understand that anybody who wants to be a leader of anything will not be prepared to sit down and talk. Diplomacy has a place, and it has a place outside of a political organization, but it also has a place within the political organization. I want to put Powa and the people unnoticed. You know why our conversations are surface deep? They're just on the surface because the media doesn't want to take time to hear what the plan is moving forward. What's my platform? They want to hear about the gory fight that's happening or the differences within a party. You have not asked me in tonight's conversation one thing that I hope to do differently if I become the leader of this country. There's been no discussion on how we can elevate the discourse nationally to ensure that we continue to educate and to build awareness and give insight into your viewership as to who our political leaders, which of our political leaders come with authenticity, who are prepared to stand in the fire with you, to defend Belize's democracy, you know, to speak her truth to power. I haven't heard that on the show. So you know, we are hearing about nomination day and the fact that we have 41 UDP candidates. Yes. We have 41 people to choose from.
No, I will let you, but I will also say, coming from the voice of the people, because you're rightfully so, as the media, we do represent what the people are asking. And while here on this show, I am still looking at the comments from our social media because that's where we're getting it from, with our person still saying they are confused. And so we keep asking these questions because so that we want a clear answer.
Does not the media or partners in democracy or partners in governance have a responsibility, if I may, to help to clarify and to help to elucidate the issues?
Absolutely.
I believe you do.
Yes.
And so, you know, why is it confusing that the UDP has 41 candidates? Why is it confusing? There are 41 people who have offered themselves for electoral office, and whether we are considered independent, we are considered alliance, we are considered UDP, we are considered PUP, we are considered some third party, we have offered ourselves as individuals to run for elected office. 90 individuals in this country have taken the brave and the bold step to offer themselves for political leadership in this country. It's, to me, that's straightforward. So it doesn't create confusion.
So I knew that I've heard that line from you and from the leader of the opposition as well. And I think it's a very unfair one to report.
Who's the leader of the opposition?
Well, see, confusing. Same thing with the top.
I'm being facetious. I think
but
the leader of the opposition in the National Assembly is Shineborough.
Bear with me, right?
He's not the leader of the party.
True.
And they're two different things.
Well, not true, but your truth. I fully respect that as your truth, because that's not his truth. But I think it's a very unfair question to put, unfair accusation to put to the media. The UDP itself, whatever iteration of it, has been giving the most confusing messaging ever. It has 9 tongues. Let me just a simple thing. You have said quite measuredly, which I respect, I see a path to 16. The chairman of the UDP says, 31. Hold on. You say that the people should not worry about you getting there. When the truth is, I wrote it here, we are asking, the leader of opposition said, listen, I cannot trust these people because they're not following the constitution of the UDP. Not the media. It was the leader of the opposition who said, I can't listen to Tracy. Tracy, she did it, talk, I can't follow the constitution. So how will you make them follow the national a constitution? So then hold on. Then you're asking to govern the country, and you can't even get people nominated. So the Belizean people legitimately are confused. Not just the numbers, it's all the moving parts and the contradictions. We need to put nobody else in another constituency except Meso, because he has to go.
He has to go.
Then the leader of opposition tonight saying, listen, I'm sure, I was looking, I called a UDP friend of mine and asked him to give me the exact section of the Constitution that says A political party can't support another political party. So for the leader of the UDP
to be throwing,
to say, listen,
support
we want to run independent candidates, it's completely preposterous.
Yes.
I said,
can I say something though?
the leader of the opposition, constructively resigned 4 people and constructively elected or selected 4 independent people to a party too. It's rough.
All right, we need to give Ms. Panton her grace, and I really want you to speak to this.
I want to say this. You heard the leader of the opposition in the National Assembly say that Tracy is not following the constitution of the party. That's what you heard. That's what you're reporting. So what research have you done as a member of the media? No one asked me for a copy of the Constitution. No, let me finish. No one asked me for a copy of the Constitution. I am saying the reason we're in this position is because we are defending our democracy internally and externally. And I have always stood up for the Constitution of the party. You know why? Because when I made my oath of office, I had to place my hand on the Bible and I had to say that I promise to defend and uphold and promote the Constitution of the United Democratic Party. And that is what, those words are sacred to me. They're not lip service. And so, who asked for the Constitution? Which media house took the Constitution and reviewed it and looked at it in the interest of providing,
I had asked you for the Constitution.
Providing information. So, not because Mr. Barrow says Tracy is not following the Constitution, that is the truth. That's his state. That's his view.
We can't keep following.
But that's not the point.
But I want to engage with our viewers that are watching us, because as I had rightfully said, we do have persons looking at us on social media, and we did get a question that, again, this is why we keep asking. So this question is coming directly from our Facebook page, and it says, so out of those 41 candidates that you are saying, she is saying that she has 10 more than the PUP, and that puts them at an advantage to 16 seats. Can you please clear this up?
In my opinion, based on the information I have, the United Democratic Party has a legitimate 31 candidates for the party. Legitimate that followed the constitution of the party to become standard bearers for the United Democratic Party. I was not expelled from the United Democratic Party. I was purportedly resigned and constructively resigned, and then I was expelled, and the most recent thing I heard is that I was relieved of my duties as a member of the United Democratic Party. That is not how it's done according to the constitution of the party. There's a process, and the process was not followed, and therefore I do not accept that I have been purportedly expelled from the United Democratic Party. It's a matter I'm challenging in court, and when that matter is heard, we hopefully will resolve. Even though I agree with you, Kevin, that's not the business for the court. That is the business that the court don't have any place in that. It is a matter for the delegates of the United Democratic Party, who, in my opinion, already spoke on that issue.
I want to get to the nitty-gritty because, as I said, we have our viewers. We also have our own questions as contributors. Mr. Shine Barrow had announced his mandate last week. His mandate through his faction. We have yet to hear from you and your faction. I understand it's coming very, very soon.
Good.
And this is something that
We're talking about our manifesto.
Your manifesto.
Yes,
your manifesto. When it comes to what you have been talking to the people about, and I'm always wondering in terms of what your manifesto would bring that is different from what we have right now. And please not say better infrastructure, better this, better. I really want to hear the philosophical values of your manifesto.
It has to focus on inclusion. It will focus on our diversity. It's going to be focused on the fundamental rights and freedoms of our country and our people, and it has to focus on what is constitutionally right. We're going through this whole process right now, and I believe, Kevin, you are a part of it, or I believe you were, if you're not still a part of it, of the PCC, the People's Constitutional Commission. And I am dying. You didn't?
I never get a nod there.
Oh, you did.
You want to nominate me?
I think it's important that we bring our best minds to the table, Kevin, and I think you're...
Table, you know.
I'm not being facetious. I think that, in my view, the time has come where, as a country, if we're going to grow, we have to have equal representation. There has to be equity in our representation. We cannot have a population of 51% women and have 2 women sitting in the National Assembly.
Agreed.
Something is wrong with that.
Agreed.
We also have come to the point where we need to bring our best minds to the table to find the solutions we seek. Citizen security is a big issue. High cost of living is a big issue. Access to affordable health care are big issues. And we have to approach these issues from this philosophy, if you will. Inclusion, diversity, access, so that the current Prime Minister speaks very eloquently about the growth in our economy. And what we don't measure when we measure growth is the impact that growth has on the average Belizean household. And I will tell you that Belizeans are having a hard time. The economy could grow by 15%, but if the impact, we don't measure the impact, we're looking at the raw numbers, we're not looking at the impact. And it's very important that our measurements for success is not a ratio, but how we improve the conditions of living for Belizeans on a whole. That's my point of view. You can only achieve that. You can only achieve that when we don't allow politics, partisan politics, to be so polarizing that if Kevin's party is in office, someone who brings a particular talent or skill or expertise or experience can't get a job because that person at PUP. Or if my office, my government is in office, Kevin can't get one job because we can't continue to do that as a country. Absolutely. And continue to experience the kind of development this country needs in a world where we see what's happening in the US, for example. Look at the trade wars. What are we going to do? What is Little Belize going to do to combat those trade wars? The US cough, we get coal. So what are we going to do? How are we going to mitigate what the impact of that on a region like the Caribbean or Central America or Latin America? What are the things that we can do differently to ensure that we can punch above our weight?
Absolutely. And I like that we're talking about the economy here, and listening to you talk about what the current government is doing. It triggers something in my mind where it's like, would you say then that we've regressed in the past 4 years in our position on these things? Because since 2020, when the people sent a very strong mandate that they wanted a change. So maybe this is a two-part question. Okay. Would you say that we've regressed in how we've handled the economy? Because I'm hearing a lot of narrative. We had Mr. Alberto August here last week, and he spoke heavily on how the people are suffering. So are we saying the people weren't suffering before? But how do we answer that question without looking at the lesson that was dished out by the Belizean people in 2020? Because the UDP had a very strong influence for 13 years over the country. I mean, in my young time voting, I've never seen that kind of support before. And frankly, and I will say this, I do not think that it was, in 2020, it was a we fully believe in the PUP. It was a, we need to get out of this burning house. So looking as, because you had 2 terms, I believe, in that government.
I had one. Yeah,
oh, sorry,
one term.
One term.
Yeah.
How would you say things have changed, or what lessons you've learned from that loss, and how are we applying these lessons, and are we taking a step back here? Because
I think it's important to take a step back and to look at, reflect on what happened, why it happened, and how we can do things differently. Yes, absolutely. That is how countries grow and learn and progress. We dealt with an issue, a global pandemic, that no country knew how to deal with.
True. Absolutely.
That's real. That's real. And people took hard licks during that time. And here came the PUP, who promised, listen to me, everything and sliced bread. Todos a ganamos. And the people wanted a relief from what we were going through. We made some mistakes, absolutely. We made some mistakes. But we're not going to shy away from that. And that's why I say that the voter is growing in terms of becoming more discerning. Because they are now looking at the issues. They're not necessarily looking at the political parties, and they're looking to their leaders, people that they want to put in place to become their leaders. So it's not like a simple path forward, right? There are complex issues, and the only way I have dealt with wicked problems or complex issues is when you bring your best minds to the table and say, let's figure this out together for Belize. Because before we are anything, we are Belizean. Before we're anything, we are Belizean. And we have a right, our democracy affords us the opportunity to have different political ideologies. But we all want what's best for this country. We all want what's best for the people.
Tracy Panton, I want to say thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know that it's a little bit of time than what we are used to, but congratulations once again for winning your nomination. We wish you and your party the very best of luck, and we look forward to the manifesto that is to come. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful.
And good to see you, Kevin.
We are now going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be discussing some election myths. Stay with us.
February is all about Honda. Get special pricing and discounts on all Honda products. Enjoy up to 25% off select Honda products and 20% off Honda parts. Don't forget your B-Bucks whenever you make your purchase. There will also be a bike rally throughout the streets of Belize City, Blue Creek, and Spanish Lookout on February 8th, 15th, and 22nd respectively. All participants will get free oil change. Check out our Facebook page for more details. Love your Honda. It's all about deals and discounts on Honda products throughout the month of February. Only at Benquip Equipment Parts Service.
Belize introduced its new electronic passport in 2022 through the launch of the Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS. The e-passport includes an electronic chip that safeguards the holder's personal information and photograph. It also features a verification mechanism compatible with biometric systems such as smart gates at international borders. The passport's design reflects national pride, showcasing Belizean landmarks and symbols. It incorporates 26 modern security elements to prevent fraud and corruption. The introduction of the e-passport aims to enhance security, improve processing efficiency, and reduce application backlogs, benefiting Belizeans both domestically and abroad. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
Design Depot, your all-in-one destination for transforming your living spaces. Explore the world of GE with our selection of cutting-edge appliances for functional, convenient, and modern living. Find solutions for every paint project, from home to industrial, with our extensive selection of Sherwin-Williams paints and coatings. Safeguard your home with the durability of our weather-resistant windows and doors. Elevate your kitchen and bath with the timeless elegance of Kohler sinks and faucets. Transform your space with our constantly refreshed tile inventory, always embracing the latest tile trends. Design Depot, all in one place.
Ok, pues fue sorprendente que cambiaran la fecha de un momento a otro, pero si las leyes lo permiten, así lo va a hacer el gobierno, ¿no? Pues lo mejor es que todo se haga en paz, que no haya ninguna dificultad, que no haya nada que lamentar, sino que sea una fiesta cívica para el país de Belice.
What has the government done for you in your area?
En mi área tiene presencia el Partido Azul, PUP. Ahí está, yo vivo en la área de Mahagany. Ahí está el ministro del Partido Azul.
What do you want the government for you to do in the future?
Uy, ahí, wow, pues ahí solo Dios determina quién es el ganador, ahí sí, y el pueblo, que Dios dirija al pueblo para que sea el mejor gobernante que pueda quedar.
And welcome back. That was Voices of the People right here on Powa and the People. We had a fantastic show with Tracy Panton joining us this evening. What have been your thoughts, your highlights, perhaps some questions that did not fully get answered in our conversation tonight? Kevin, let's start with you.
Well, before I went into my questions that I wish were answered, I think we have to redouble on asking people to send in their questions, because one thing about Ms. Panton, she wanted more questions. And I think if she had sent in more questions, I think she would have preferred those questions over my questions by far. And
no,
so
but I think
we're asking,
even asking people to send in questions, you're obviously sending things that they want to speak on, and that allows them to control the narrative, and it doesn't bring forward what the people actually want to know.
And this is Powa and the People.
Absolutely, absolutely. But, you know, one of the things for me is really this whole issue of what is the impact of the fact that 2 PUP era reps don't have to have a convention, don't have to go through an election. And one of the things I wanted to ask Ms. Panton is, how do you feel about that? Because not necessarily from the what of it, but from the political strategy. Now,
she did mention that she agrees that it was a blow to our democracy. She did touch on that. But I think my concern in it was, and if we're to form an opposition, there is a firm likelihood that we will have people from Shine's faction, people from Miss Tracy's faction, right? How well do they play ball together? That's what I want to know.
Not very well.
Yeah.
Correct.
She did not answer my question about moving forward if they both win their seats.
But we've been hearing that same rhetoric.
Yes.
Even when Mr. August was here last week, they said that after the election, they're going to come together, they're going to unify. it is very clear that Shine Barrow has no intentions
He
from
said
his
it.
words. He said
Of
it. He
leaving
has no intentions
after the elections, March
of
31st.
unifying. So if Lee Mark does not pull off an upset, we're right back at the
Square
same
one.
thing. Well,
Yes.
granted that Miss Tracy wins her seat, Shine wins his seat, that still leaves our opposition in limbo because it is very clear one side is more than willing to work with the other, but the other side they just don't care to work with the other one.
And I just wanted to throw in a rhetoric to our viewers that are tuning in right now. We see your questions coming in. We are trying our best to, ensure that our guests gets them on time and so forth. I do want to encourage for future shows that you keep abreast of everything that we do talk about here because, in our first couple episodes, we did ask the public what they think their issues are concerning the elections, what they would like to see changes and so forth in our electorate process and so on. So we've been having this dialogue from the very, very beginning. It's very important for our viewers to feel as included. This is your show, really and truly, and we really want to ensure that you get your questions answered. And as our contributors and myself, we try our best to ensure that the guest or us answer these questions accordingly. But go ahead,
ladies,
Kevin.
ladies, the point I wanted to make was, and I wish Ms. Panton was here to answer this. In my opinion, the UDP hearing that Anthony Marler and Henry Charles Usher are on the loose is probably the worst two PUP politicians ever on the loose. Let me explain to you why.
No, I want to know if it's the same reason I'm thinking.
Let me explain to you why, in my opinion.
I'm not stopping you.
Anthony Marler, who won tremendously, I did the numbers at the last election, I think he was almost 4-1, I think.
It's a big win.
Is one of the most, had one of the ministries with the most amount of money.
Yes, tourism.
Right? And then you take the person, the politician on the PUP side in the city who's probably the most seasoned and most experienced. This is the guy who ran Said Musa's campaign, who has been a 3-time chairman of the PUP.
Yep.
You let a strategist, a master strategist, and a master of money
You just freed them up to go and be strategists and masters.
freelance and to wreak havoc.
Exactly.
The worst possible too.
And this is because what I saw in Marla's camp last election, how well that machine was oiled, where they were very organized, and and I'm pretty sure that those people didn't think they wouldn't have a job on election day, But I think they would still have a job on election day. I think if I know the PUP as well as I believe I know them, they're going to use these resources in other constituencies, and trouble will be made.
Well, according to another media house, they got information that Mr. Marler has already declared that he will go into Ms. Panton's constituency.
There we go. I heard through the grapevine that additional machinery will be sent into the Albert division, and machinery will be sent into Collett specifically. So
we're gonna see how this plays out, but I really want to throw a question to our viewers as we are wrapping up tonight's show. Take into consideration what our contributors said tonight. We have basically a new standing elected in the Elections and Boundaries division by way of Henry Charles Usher. And we have been talking about redistricting and constitution reform. And then we have another key player, which is one of the biggest economic fuels in Belize, which is tourism, by way of Anthony Marler. Take into consideration those two issues. Take into consideration all the issues surrounding those developments and so forth as you are going into the general elections 2025. We look forward to hearing your questions as they come in our next show on Thursday. But Demi, Kevin, I want to give you both the opportunities to close off and give your viewers the final statements.
Absolutely. I echo the sentiments of Kevin that I wish I could have gotten my questions in for Miss Tracy because...
Next week, girl.
No, I mean...
Next week? People are tuning again Thursday.
No, but to be honest, even if I had asked them, I'm not so sure if I would have gotten an answer because precedent has been set, But my concern is the effectiveness of our opposition and the ability of them to hold whatever government comes in accountable, because that is what an opposition should do, not oppose. So my biggest issue is I could see where our democracy is not going to be so much of a democracy. We have a potential PUP on the loose going into the aftermath of this election. That's where my concerns are, because where are the check and balances there? Kevin?
So I will piggyback. That was not where I was going to end, but
you felt it.
I felt it. I connect to it, and it's a powerful point that has been said over. I absolutely disagree, though. I believe that democracy is absolutely alive. I thought about the issue with Dean Summers, which is embarrassing. That's the nicest way I can put it. And I thought, should the people of Pickstock have even run the risk of having somebody who would duck out on the last minute under those circumstances?
Well,
and they need to explain to them. So they did. The police and people were given a favor by not having it there. I also looked at the whole issue of where the UDP is, and if they're not successful at the polls, they would just want to run their own party. So how nationally? Democracy means getting the best person to do the job, to represent you. That, to me, what it means.
I thought it was free and fair and everyone has a choice.
There's a process, but at the end of that process, you want that process to secure for you the best option possible, and because the people are never wrong in the option. My call is for the institutions, for the young people, for the academics. Every week I will call for this, to educate the public. If you are into numbers and statistics, if you're into technology, put something together to be able to put the beliefs in public. Don't be ashamed. Sandra Nisbet, let me call her name on here. I was very impressed. She put a post up on Facebook where she went through some numbers. You saw it. And I thought, if more Belizeans did this, it would actually send a message to these politicians who can't do it themselves, some of them, you know. So we, the people, are the ones who create these politicians.
Absolutely.
We tolerate them. And we cannot sit there and wait for them to become educated and mature. We have to become mature first.
And I think we need to understand that there's a difference between being a leader and a politician, and the two are not the same. So that is why you have politicians who aren't able to run the numbers, because let's face it, to be a politician, you need to have a level of likability.
It comes with a certain profile.
Yes, you should at the very least be likable, you know. But I'll go one step forward. It's more than just us putting the information out there, the intelligent minds and all of that. We need more than just that. We need a seat at the table. What I'm not seeing from most of these these candidates are going forward, I'm not seeing what the youth involvement in their campaign is actually going to be like. I'm seeing youth tokenism a lot, 1 and 2 young people running, but I'm not seeing where we could maybe look at a vice minister. And I got this comment from someone within the youth community. She's a youth leader, and she mentioned it to me. You know how good of a look that would be to see someone up and coming in their career who is otherworldly, sitting beside the prime minister, whispering in the prime minister's ear, but you know, this perspective of what's happening here and there. It's more or less the same thing, because even when I look at Miss Tracy's fraction, I'm seeing the same faces that I thought we got rid of in 2020.
Wow, that is a powerful statement from both of you. I am extremely thankful to have our contributors on the show tonight. That is a wrap for tonight's show. Harold, thank you so much for tuning in. He was commenting on YouTube. He was sending in his questions too. Absolutely. So, but thank you all to our viewers for tuning in. We saw major power moves. We had historical numbers in our elections for this year. And of course, we still have bigger questions that need answer. But if you want to join in on the conversation, continue to using hashtag Powa2025. We're going to be seeing you all here on Thursday, same time, same place at 7:30 p.m. This is Powa and the People. Remember, you have the power. Have a good night.
Powa and the People, Democracy of the Airways on Channel 5. Sponsored by Belize, serving Belize for over 74 years. The Ministry of Immigration, managing migration for the security and socio-economic benefit of Belize.